Hi guys, welcome back to Becoming By Nqobileh M. My name is Nqobileh M and I'm a certified clinical psychologist. First things first, Happy New Year. I hope that you're all ushered into 2023, 2023, in a heartwarming, productive, joyful, hopeful way. And I'm wishing you guys all the best for the year to come. We need to own this year, guys. We really need to make it our year. If you're new here, welcome. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, refer a friend, refer a frenemy, and let's just get these platforms growing this year. All right. So without further ado, our topic for today is belief systems. How do our belief systems shape the way in which we interact with the world at large, in the way that we interact with ourselves and the people that are in our lives? All right. So it's not very often that, people stop and think about the relationship between, or the relation between their beliefs and what their life produces. So I'm hoping to take the veil back, take the veil off a little bit and just try and dive into the topic and see, and hope in the hope that you guys will benefit something out of it, right? So my understanding of beliefs is that beliefs stem from the lessons that we grasp from our previous experiences. So it could be our experiences, or it could be the experiences of people that are in our lives. So it's the conclusions that we draw from our experiences. That's what shapes what we believe about particular things. So for example, if I get my first heartbreak, I know that there's this thing where if I'm dating a guy who has a particular surname and that's your first heartbreak, then just yo, never again will I date guys that have this particular surname. So you've already altered and changed your belief towards people who have that particular surname just because of the conclusion that you drew from one experience. So our beliefs go quite deep, and our beliefs affect all areas of our lives, some with us knowing and some without us actually being consciously aware of that. Our belief systems also shape our thoughts, which in turn shapes our feelings and our responses and our actions. Our belief systems shape our perceptions. They shape the lens in which we view the world at large, right? So every single interaction that you have is all stemming from what you believe about that particular thing, or what do you believe about that particular experience, or what conclusion have you drawn from that. So because beliefs are shaped on our experiences, and because beliefs are something that happens in our internal minds, meaning that it's an unconscious but conscious process, because you choose what lesson do you want to hold on to from that experience, meaning that beliefs can either be positive or they can be negatives. It can be negative, pardon. All right. So you can either walk out of an experience with a positive view of yourself or of the interaction with that experience, or you can walk out of that experience with a negative view. Again, if you're dating a guy from a particular surname and that person breaks your heart, then there's that negative belief that's attached to all of those people from that area, or who share that surname, or who go to that particular school, or whatever the case is, right? So our beliefs shape the lens in which we view our world. And because they shape the way in which we view our world, they also affect our mental health. One of the biggest things that therapy will do is challenge the negative constructs that you have about yourself and about your feelings that are based on how you view mental health as a whole. I have always shared that I come from what's known as, I think, Imakaya type of vibe. So I grew up quite exposed to the negative stigma, the negative connotation around the area of mental health. I grew up in an era where therapy was known as a white person disease, where depression was known to not affect people of color, where, my grandmother, bless her soul, I think for a while for her to actually grasp the concept of me being a psychologist and what that actually means and what I do in an everyday life. And because I grew up in an era where mental health wasn't something that was openly spoken about, a lot of people went about being depressed, or a lot of people suffered anxiety without even knowing that they're depressed, or without even knowing that they have anxiety. Like I come from an era where schizophrenia was diagnosed as something else, where the cause or the root of it could always be pointed to someone else or to something else other than it actually being understood and dealt with as a mental health order. So our beliefs from the era that I came from, our beliefs around mental health affected how we took care of ourselves. It affected how, we perceived topics like sadness and depression, and speaking and sharing about how you're feeling, and expressing yourself, and being a child that is able to go up to your parents and tell them that, hey, mom and dad, I actually really didn't like what you said, or I really didn't like how you approached the situation and stuff like that. So there's a lot of my previous understanding about mental health that was deeply rooted in the beliefs of the social construct in which I come from. And it's one of the reasons why I chose this career, because I wanted to challenge that, I wanted to change that, and I don't think that it's fair that those that come before me have to suffer the same struggles that we suffered because of our lack of knowledge of mental health, right? So our belief systems shape a lot. Our belief systems shape our relationships with ourselves. What you believe about yourselves, the inner language that you use when you're referring to yourself, when you're speaking to yourself, shapes the belief that you have about yourself. So if you are constantly overcritical, if you are always wanting to push, or if you are always at a space where you feel like you're not doing better, where like you're not doing well, or you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, where you are not acknowledging your efforts or how far you've come, that in a way also it gets internalized, and it shapes the way that we see ourselves. And that's why we have people, that sometimes can get a low self-esteem on the inside, but on the outside, I may think that, whoa, that person looks like they have it all together. But on the inside, they're not able to value that or see that how I see that in themselves, how other people see it, because of the internal dialect that they use whenever they're communicating with themselves, the words that we attach to ourselves, the words that we use to describe ourselves, all of those things come from the internal our internal ways of communicating with ourselves, which stems from our beliefs. So if I've had an experience that maybe I battled to conceptualize, or maybe that I battled to process, or if I've had an experience of maybe a big mistake that I made in my life, I may or may not end up seeing myself through the lens of my negative experience, through the lens of my mistakes, rather than seeing me for me and my mistakes for what they are. We always say that people don't see things for what the things are, people see things for who they are. And the way in which I see things is always going to be based on the beliefs that I attach to those particular things. Our beliefs affect our relationships with others as well. If I've had a negative experience with a certain member of my family, the next time I interact with them, I might be a little bit more withdrawn. I might, change the way in which I'm relating to them, because one experience can make me shape a completely different can make me shape a completely different belief about that person, which can affect how I relate with them, moving forward. So our beliefs, the way that we see things, our perceptions go even as deep as making or breaking our relationships and the relationships that we have with people in our lives. It's January now. I'm one of those people who are very big on goal setting and vision boards. And I realize that it's not everyone who values the whole thing of setting your goals and having a vision board, because of certain maybe previous experiences that they've had, that are linked to the goals that they've set. and how those experiences have shaped their beliefs about goal setting moving forward. For example, like if you're at a place where you had planned to save 100,000 Rand before the end of the year, and you set it up, and all of these things that we see on social media, they say save 1 Rand a day, and the next day it's 2 Rand, and before you know it, it's 1,000,000 Rand. So say if I've planned to save 100,000, if my goal is to save 100,000 Rand by December this year, right? That's my goal. I start my January, hit first, and like I'm going for it. Come March, I'm still going for it. Come April, I get hit by an unexpected expense. So like, maybe my dog gets sick and needs surgery, and I don't have medical aid for my dog, and I have to cough up like 40K or like 20K, and then I end up dipping into my savings. Fine, let's say as the year goes by, I'm able to recover that. And then come October, you get hit by another, experience or another instance that you hadn't budgeted for. Your car, something happens to your car and you have to pay for it cash, and you have to cough up 60,000 Rand for that from the amount that you had saved towards December. Come December, instead of having 100K, maybe you have 40K, and then are you now going to feel like a failure? Are you now going to feel like I didn't reach my goal just because it's not 100K, it's 40K? And we tend to disregard all of the other things, all of the other curveballs that life throws at us that we hadn't prepared for, that might just hinder the process of goal setting just a little bit. So we even struggle with believing that having a goal doesn't mean that it's just going to be a straight line A to B. Goals change. We have to readjust our goals every now and again. Sometimes our goals may be affected by something that we hadn't planned for. Does that mean that you failed all in all as a person? No, it just means that you just need to readjust it, relook at it. At least it's there. At least it's a guide. At least it's a destination. But one experience about not achieving your goal, you go and scrap the whole idea of goal setting and vision boards, which is understandable because nobody likes negative experiences. But I mean, it can be, it doesn't necessarily like help us in being productive and in moving forward with our lives, because we end up attaching the wrong belief to the right thing, or the right belief to the wrong thing. And that's why therapy is so important. That's why seeing a psychologist should be part of everyone's goals for the year, because what therapy does is that it helps challenge those negative, distorted thoughts that we have in our heads that nobody else knows of, or that nobody else can hear, or that nobody else thinks are existence. It helps us challenge those. It helps us dispute some of the negative thought process or some of the negative beliefs that we have attached to certain things, and shape a more conducive, more productive, more constructive view towards life. A view that is understanding that the world is not black and white. Sometimes there's a little bit of gray. And when the gray comes, doesn't mean that you're completely off track. No, thought processes that help you understand that you're not black and white. You're going to be sad. You're going to be happy. You're going to experience good things. You're going to experience bad things. When you experience a bad thing, does that make you an overall bad person? No, but we always tend to hold on to the beliefs that make us the villain in our own story, which is very, very unfair, right? So my biggest challenge, which is my everyday challenge in all of the content that I take out, is go for therapy. Try and get somebody to help facilitate the process of change, the process of, reconstructing your views, reconstructing the lens in which you see the world. We need to be a little bit kinder towards ourselves. We need to have a little bit of empathy towards ourselves, a little bit of compassion towards ourselves. So when you've identified through therapy, when you've identified some negative thought patterns, we also need to be in a space of acceptance and like stuff like, it's okay, maybe it wasn't my choosing, maybe I didn't know that it was going to lead to this, and maybe it's affected me in all of these areas of my life, but I can now commit or surrender to the process of reshaping that, or starting to think like a different person or like a better person. All right, so our beliefs can be very deeply rooted, and because they are created by experiences, we can challenge and we can change them. So if anything, take this year as the year in which you start going through the process of challenging those beliefs that hold you back, of challenging those thought processes that are keeping you in bondage or that are keeping you in chains. Go through a process of identifying your thought patterns and seeing what needs tweaking here and there, so that we can actually end this year feeling better, doing better, and end this year strong as a way to transition into the following year as well. So it's never too late. It's never too late to start. We don't just go to therapy because we're actively depressed or we're actively anxious. We also go for therapy even when we're just stuck and we're just trying to understand something differently, or we're just trying to get revelation on a particular area of our lives. So let's be in a process where we do research about our belief systems, look at our belief systems. Let's not be scared of the mirror, and actually take the first step of trying to do something about it. Try to get the help to work through it. It's not to say that you should do it all alone, but get the necessary help. That's all from me today. I hope that you guys learned something, and I hope that something resonated with each and every single one of you guys. I will be back with another episode. Don't forget, mental health matters always. Take care, and I'll see you on our next episode. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Do the most. Bye.